I've had clients that got married 3 months after meeting and sat in front of a USCIS officer that saw that as a red flag. This is not automatically a red flag or a problem, but depending on how you build your marriage-based green card case, it could be detrimental to your case. So you need to make sure that you're building your case in a way that shows your relationship, even though you got married within 3 months of meeting. Let's talk about how you can still prove your relationship, even though it was a fast one. I am attorney Lilian Chukwurah, and I help my clients get green cards and citizenships for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. I constantly get this question from clients and from people on my social media asking me, we got married fast. Is that going to be a problem for our case? I get clients that ask me the question of, we got married really fast. How will that affect our marriage-based green card application? In this video, I'm going to address the following: why USCIS scrutinizes these type of relationships in the first place, the evidence strategy that I typically use in these types of cases, what officers are looking for and listening for in your interviews, and finally, common mistakes clients make before they even hire me. First, let's talk about the legal requirements. When it comes to marriage-based green card applications, people are always worried about the length of the marriage and if that's going to be a problem. Legally, according to the Immigration and Nationality Act and all USCIS policy procedures, there is no length of time for your marriage. USCIS is not going to deny your case just because you've been married for a month, or you got married within a month of meeting. USCIS is not going to deny your case for that. What they're looking for in these cases, and sometimes what leads people to think that the length of the marriage matters, is USCIS is looking for marriage fraud. They're looking for evidence that the relationship was only entered into for the purpose of getting a green card. And if you just meet someone within 3 months, you get married, and now you're filing a green card application, I think if we are being really objective about it, that is a reasonable assumption for USCIS to make. So now it's up to you with your evidence to overcome that red flag, right? In my previous video, I talked about a bunch of red flags. Feel free to watch that video. And this quick, fast marriage is one of the red flags. And as I said in that video, just because you have a red flag doesn't mean your case is going to be automatically denied. However, if you do not have evidence to prove to the officer that you entered into your marriage in good faith, that can lead to a denial. When this red flag comes up, it's important to note that your job and my job as the attorney is not to prove that you two dated for decades before you got married. It's to prove that even with a short relationship that led to a marriage, that you two built a relationship and do have a foundation for a future long-term relationship, right? That's what you're trying to prove to the officer. You're not trying to make up a timeline. You're working with the timeline you have and then building evidence around that. Now, let's talk about how I actually would build these cases. When I take on a case like this, where there is this red flag of a quick, fast relationship, this is how I typically do it. I focus on the big evidence, not the small things like pictures. Pictures are nice to have. However, pictures does not show the commitment. So even though it's a short relationship, we want to show that you two are committed and moving like full steam ahead into this relationship. So what do I mean by that? We're looking at financial entanglement. What does that even mean? meaning that you two have combined your finances. You have a joint bank account, you are filing taxes together, you are getting a lease together. If there's a mortgage, both of you are on it if possible, right? You are combining your finances. That is what USCIS is looking for. They want to show that financial entanglement, that you two are basically mixing your finances and taking on the responsibilities of debts and the responsibilities of having income. So you're combining your income and you're combining your debt. So that's what they're looking for here. And the more you can show that, even with a short relationship, the better. Okay, I've had clients that moved in together right before they got married, literally 3 months dating, got married, moved in together, already had plans to start their joint bank account, already started combining their finances within months of meeting. So if you are watching this and you have a longer courtship than 3 months, just know this is possible for you. I recommend financial entanglement as one of the pillars for this process because it is harder to fake a joint bank account. It is harder to fake that you two are putting your finances together, your household expenses together. It is harder to fake that, right? So that's why we want to really put on as much, evidence as possible on that financials. The next thing you want to focus on is your communication history. Because it's a short relationship, that's even better because that means you're going to have your chat history, your call history, all in there. So you're able to actually pull those records. If you're communicating on WhatsApp, you can pull your WhatsApp chats in history. If you are texting, there is a way to pull your text messages from iPhone and Android. Trust me, there's a way, okay? Where there's a will, there is a way. So make sure that you are pulling those history, especially if you don't have those financial entanglements fully set up yet. When it comes to text messages and communication, it's really about the substance of it. If you are planning your wedding, if you are making major decisions about your life together in your text messages, those are the ones you want to share with the officer, not just the good morning text, the good night text, the how's your day going text. We want more texture to your relationship to show how you went from meeting 3 months ago to now married and now filing a green card application. Okay, you want to be able to show that, and your text messages are a good way to show it. Another thing that we like to do here is getting independent third-party affidavits. Listen, affidavits to me are not the best evidence of a relationship. However, it can be helpful when you have a fast relationship to get family and friends and people outside of your immediate relatives that can attest to your relationship. And remember, when it comes to affidavits, it's about the knowledge of the person writing the affidavit, right? Do they actually know you two as a couple? What do they know of you, right? What have they seen, experienced of you two as a couple? Not what you have told them, right? Not just what you told them, but were they at your wedding? Did you introduce them to your spouse? All of those things are what matters here. What have they personally experienced of you in your relationship? That's what you want them to put in that affidavit. And you want to make sure that you are not just selecting everyone that you know, but making sure you're being very picky about who is doing the affidavits, because again, it's about what they know about your relationship. The more they know about your relationship, the more they have experienced you and your spouse in your relationship, the better. One thing I like to do with my clients is build a relationship timeline. When it comes to like these fast relationships, you really want to focus on the relationship timeline. When did you meet? How did you meet? All of the in-betweens. And if you have pictures to show, okay, we met at, Dunkin' Donuts, and here's a picture of us at Dunkin' Donuts the day we met, and here's the timestamp that shows that's where we met and when we met, that we met on a dating app. on this date, and you can pull the records from the dating app to show when you two started communicating. We were introduced by a family member or a friend through text, and then we started chatting, right? Pull the text messages, have that included. So you really want to build a narrative for the officer, right? You want to build a story that the officer can follow to be like, yes, I see how you get from meeting to getting married within 3 months, right? That's the story you want to tell. The next step after you filed your application and included your evidence is typically your interview. That's the next stage of, you know, trying to convince this USCIS officer that your marriage is real. So where do you start? With my clients, we do a mock interview for everyone, right? Every single client that we are doing their case gets a mock interview. Whether I'm attending the interview with them or not, we typically do a mock interview because I want you to be prepared. And when you have a short relationship, the mock interview is even more important because we need to go over specific dates. We need to make sure that you and your spouse are on the same page. You understand what type of questions will come up, and you have answers to the difficult questions. Right? How did you meet? Where did you meet? Why did you choose to get married so fast? Right? Those are questions that can be triggering when you're in the interview. And I don't want the first time you hear those triggering questions to be at your interview. That's why the mock interview is so important to have before the actual interview. Typically, when the officer is doing the interview, they're looking for consistency in your answers and your documentation. Okay, that's what they're looking for, the consistency. So they're going to ask you more questions about your life together when it's a shorter marriage. So some of the questions you may expect is details about your first date, how you met, where you met, who asked who out on the date, what restaurant did you go to, what movie did you watch if you went to the movies, those details about your first date. And then who proposed, how did you propose, when did you propose, right? And then they're going to ask questions about your life together, your day-to-day life. One of the questions that couples get confused on that officers like to ask is, imagine their office is your room, is your bedroom, and the office door is where your door is. Where is everything else, right? Where's your bed? What wall are windows on? What wall is your bed on? What wall is your closet on? Do you have nightstands? Like, what do you have in your room? And if you are living in the room, you would know these things, right? So I like doing that question with my clients because sometimes they don't be paying attention to their home. Right? Maybe the wife decorated the home and that's it, right? They just live in the home. They're not thinking about the little things. So I have to ask these questions so they can be like, oh wait, we do have 2 windows in the room, not just one. And there's, you know, nightstands and the closet, but there's also a TV in the room and a TV in the living room and all this stuff. Like, they start really thinking about their space more and paying attention to their space. So that's why the mock interview is so important. You don't want to kind of be guessing at your interview, right? The reason the officer asks these questions that seem like, okay, why are they asking these little things, is because it's easy for people to make up the big story of how we met, right? But it's harder to make up what's on your wall. It's harder to make up what did you eat for breakfast. One thing I'd like to remind people is that I don't know or I don't remember is an answer. Do not make up an answer that you think sounds good and will be kind of what your partner may answer. If you are not sure, do not give the answer, because whatever answer you give, that's your answer. And the officer is going to be comparing your answer to your partner's answer. And if they do not align, that is inconsistency that can lead to a notice of intent to deny or even a fraud investigation. And finally, let's talk about the mistakes I see that clients make before they even hire me. I have been doing immigration law for almost 11 years now, and I can tell you that I see a few patterns that happen before clients hire me. Mistakes that they're making before they even hire me, that I want to make sure that you are not making before you hire your immigration lawyer. These are in no particular order. So first, they wait months and months and months to combine their finances. They know they want to live together. They know they want to combine their finances, but they just delay doing it. Do it. Okay? If you know you want a joint bank account and you're going to use that joint bank account for your household expenses, then go ahead and get the bank account, right? There's no point in delaying. They don't really keep a file of evidence for their day-to-day life, right? I usually tell people while your case is pending or before you even file to keep records of your day-to-day. So if you're getting mail, if you're getting bills, things like that, make sure you're putting it together and basically having either a digital file or a physical file that you're putting those evidence of joint financial entanglements together. 3, they rely mostly on family member affidavits. Listen, your family members are always going to say nice things about you when you're asking them to write these letters. USCIS knows this, and they are not going to put a lot of weight on family member affidavits. However, they are nice to have, but you want to focus more on people that are not related to you, that are willing to write these affidavits for you. And finally, they over prepare a story. Like, oh, well, we met on a dating app, but we think that's not really a nice way to have met. So let's make up this grandiose story about how we were walking in a park and then met each other, and that no one cares. Okay? No one wants some big story. USCIS just wants to know how you met. Okay? I remember I was in an interview and they asked, the officer asked my client, how did you meet your spouse? And they said, oh, we met in PF. The officer's like, PF? Okay. Officer was confused, but when the other spouse comes in, officer asked the same question. How did you meet? And he said, oh yeah, we met on Plenty of Fish. PF, Plenty of Fish. Okay. So the officer was able to combine that to be like, oh, okay. Y'all are not telling me different stories. They don't care. Officers have heard all the stories about how people met, right? All the dating apps. They know it. The officer just wasn't sure what dating app he was talking about. But they know all of those things. And they do not look down on your relationship just because you don't have this like beautiful love story or what you think is a beautiful love story. Officers don't care. Okay? So the truth of how you met, the truth of your relationship is what's going to win your case over any story that you think makes you look good. Because guess what happens with stories? We tend to forget details, okay? When two people are trying to keep their story straight, someone always messes up. But if you're both telling the truth, it's hard to mess up. So if you are in a fast relationship, you know you want to file your green card application, you may want to start gathering your evidence now, putting your things together, and getting ready for eventually filing that green card application. If you have already filed your green card application, it is not too late to start gathering evidence. So for financial entanglements, when it comes to bank statements and all of that, yeah, you got married really fast. You may have filed within like a few months of getting married, but if you have a bank account together and you're using it for your household expenses, when you eventually have your interview, guess what? You're now going to have months of bank statements that you can present to the officer, okay? So it is not late to start, but you want to do it as soon as possible. Now remember, a short courtship does not mean that your case is going to be denied. It just means that you're going to have to do more on the evidence gathering than someone that has been in a relationship for years, okay? You're going to need to put more together than someone that has been in a relationship for years. It is not impossible, but again, it's case by case. It depends on what you're able to gather for your case, but it is not impossible. Okay. And if you're going through your own immigration journey and you would like some help in that process, whether it's helping you prepare your packet or a mock interview, if you already filed your application and you have an interview coming up and you want to make sure you're prepared, or you want a full service where we are helping you from beginning to end, please go ahead and go to my website, lilylegal.com/contact us, and you can schedule a date and time that works best for you, for us to talk about your situation and see what service may be best for you.